Welcome back, everyone, to another music review. My name is Bryce, and in this music review, we're going to be going back to another one of the artists that I've already done an album on. We're going to move on to their next album, and you may notice by the time that this review actually gets posted up that I've put a few extra Casting Crowns drum covers up on YouTube. And I've still got plenty more that need to be uploaded. I've got other ones that need to be recorded and edited. But and if you're not on YouTube and you're on the website listening to this, then I encourage you please to get on the YouTube channel. It's just get on YouTube, type in the search bar Cootie Expressions, all one word, all lowercase, and it will bring my channel up. And there you can see the drum covers and you can see the music reviews as well. But anyway, I've been kind of doing all this because I've been meaning to talk about Casting Crowns' second album for a while now. And this album, of course, is called Lifesong. This came out back in 2005. It was put out by Provident Label Group, a unit of Sony BMG Music Entertainment, or so the back of the plastic casing says. I should also give a shout out to Reunion Records because they had a handle in the project as well, and so we always want to give proper credit where credit is due. As far as any band member changes, there's none that have occurred. I looked back and forth between the two albums, and all the band members are still the same up to this point. I think that ends up changing eventually, but for right now, everybody's still the same. As for the album itself, it's got, I believe, 11 tracks. Yeah, 11. So let's get started on all of them. The very first one is the title track of Lifesong, and this one's kind of hard to describe, but it's not a bad thing that it's hard to describe. I put that it carries an angelic rock kind of thing throughout, because it's like between Megan on the keyboards or whatever it is that she's using, or any accompaniment that Melody has on the violin, it's between those together, it's like that's where the angelic stuff comes from. And then and it's like then you get to the chorus, and that's where the rock really starts to kind of come in, but that angelic stuff's still going on too, and it's like it has a nice just blend together, and it's really, really good writing, I thought. As for what the message is, the singer is basically asking Jesus to let his life be a song that sings to Jesus. So very humble prayer, I do say so myself. This is like one of those albums, I don't think it's necessarily the best song on the album, but it's one of those songs, though, that people always love to listen to it. And it's like, once again, words really don't do the kind of justice. It's like just like one of those kinds of songs where when you listen to it, you get, I think, just kind of internally why people like it. At least if you have an open heart to this sort of music anyway. Track 2, Praise You in This Storm. This is probably the most popular of the album. I know Lifesong has been played on the radio. It's a single. Praise You in the Storm, I think, is probably the best single of this entire album. It's slightly slower. The music, I think, complements the song really well. It kind of gives that tense feeling of the trying to emulate the storm that's being mentioned in Praise You in This Storm, and the music helps balance that very well. The singer is clearly going through some hard times, but in the midst of it they're proclaiming that they will still praise God no matter what. They know God is with him, or if you go to some place and hear a girl singing, obviously, she would know that God is still with her. It's irrelevant. But I know, this has been a song of encouragement for a lot of people that I know personally, and I know it has impacted people across the nation. So if you haven't heard this song, I would highly recommend it. Please check it out. So, and there is I believe the bridge, I can't remember the verse off the top of my head, but there is the bridge is basically the verse, I lift my eyes up to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. So it's always nice to hear scripture being sung. But anyway, let's move on to track 3. Does anybody hear her? So this is the song, or this is one of the songs anyway, where Casting Crowns comes back with their patented conviction-stirring lyrics. First of all, I love the build of the music. It's written so perfectly, in my opinion. You know, you're starting off, basically, it's just piano hitting chords and mostly Mark singing at the beginning. By the time you reach the end of it, it's big crescendo finale, kind of a just, you know, if you're not gonna get it by this point, you're not gonna get it at all. And then the cycle repeats at the end with the last lyric of the song. And so I think it's extremely well written. The singer is telling a story of this girl who needs the hope of Jesus to save her from her sin, as we all do. But the problem is no one is paying attention. Or it's either nobody's paying attention or everybody rather is judging her and avoiding her. Nobody's taking the time to find out what's going on. No one's really showing the love of Jesus towards this girl. What I was mentioning earlier, the story then cliffhangs with going back kind of to the beginning, only instead of a girl this time, it's talking about a guy, and that's when the song ends. In other words, there are men and women out there who need the church to be the church and share the good news with them because they're lost, they need help. They're going to turn to the things of the world to satisfy them, but it's not going to satisfy them, and soon they're going to end up in a dark and empty place, and this is what we're supposed to be doing, but we're so concerned about our inner circles, we're so concerned about, I guess, our own little world. Ironically, our own little world is supposed to be the world that we're sharing to other people, but we're so concerned about protecting it that we don't consider the people who need it. I know this song in particular, I know there's this one guy I used to play guitar, I played drums, he played guitar. It was in this old church band that I used to play, and he told me one of the reasons why he doesn't like Casting Crowns is because their lyrics always, put you down. They don't ever lift you up or anything, which is first of all not true. And he kind of mentioned this song in particular, and I just looked at him and I was like, songs like this are supposed to convict you, to get you to change your lifestyle, to start acting the way you're supposed to doing. I mean, if you have a problem with that, then we have a very serious issue going on here personally, I think. So it's just something to consider. Anyway, let's move on to track 4, Stained Glass Masquerade. Again, along the same lines. The music starts off kind of solemn, and then it transitions into pretty good rock, I think, for lack of a better style. The singers are confessing how, when they go to church, they hide the truth about their lives from other people. And in a transitional sense, they are then asking if others are doing the same thing. As are we all just putting on these faces? Are we, because here's the thing, like when I go to my church, is people always just kind of act like nothing's wrong. Everybody talks about meaningless things instead of having the courage, I guess, to tell each other, you know what, my week in general just really wasn't good, and I really need some prayer and encouragement. Things are not going well at all. And instead of doing that, we just try to act like everything's fine, everything's good, and that's the having Jesus in our hearts and in our lives does not mean that we have to pretend that everything is perfect now. We're set free from sin, but we still have to go through the hardships of life, and that's supposed to be easier because he's with us, and it's also supposed to be easier because Jesus is in the rest of the members of the body. We can go to them, and we can surround each other and comfort each other, strengthen each other with the power of the Spirit and of the Holy Spirit, I mean. And yet again, this is something not necessarily all churches, but most churches don't do. And also too, some of the ones that do actually are open with each other, some of them don't go far enough. They may only go surface deep. The point is transparency, because the more transparent we are, the more open we are for potential impact in our lives through God's healing, I guess. I don't know if that's necessarily a correct way of saying it, but I think discerning hearts and minds can, figure out where I'm coming from. Anyway, I gotta move on though. Track 5 is Love Them Like Jesus. This one's pretty laid back, I think. Laid back pace, laid back music. The singer presents stories of a dad leaving his family, and then another one of a baby dying, and encourages people who are looking on at these situations, and they want to be able to witness to the people who are going through whatever tragedy is in front of them. And what the singer's encouraging those people to do is to be the effective witness. What you need to do is basically just love them like Jesus, and that is true, and that is true to agree. I don't think a lot of people necessarily know what it means to love them like Jesus, and unfortunately, I don't have time to get to that in this review. It's not something that really can be embellished in a song, so I'm not gonna strike points off for that or anything. Track 6 is Set Me Free. This one, it starts off pretty, mesmerizing, a little soft and everything. And by the time, and then, whenever it goes to the chorus, it changes to like a really bright rock. And I wouldn't have a problem with this song if it weren't for the fact that when it goes to the chorus and that bright rock emerges, the guitar really drowns out Mark, and I don't think that's what the original intention was. I think somebody just didn't balance that well when they were mixing it. The singer is, you can kind of tell from the way things are being described, the singer's alone, and he's proclaiming his demons, and he's crying out to be set free. And as this begins to unravel, the song is trying to point back to Jesus. And like I said, I would like this song more if Mark's voice wasn't so drowned out in the chorus, because the rest of the song is absolutely fine for me, but it's because of that and you can't hear what he's saying in the chorus that I can't actually put it in my list of top recommendations. But if you happen to have lyrics handy, go ahead and listen to it. I mean, at the very least, the music is enjoyable, sort of. a lot of it's like chords and stuff, but it complements well with what's going on. It's just you can't hear what's going on with the words in the chorus anyway. Repetitiveness aside, let's move on to track 7, While You Were Sleeping. And so for this one, the piano starts off, and it goes to a kind of, I would call it a mellow kind of contemporary, because it's relaxing, but it's still got that contemporary kind of a feel to it, the moderately paced sort of thing going on. What this song is doing, it calls out Bethlehem and Jerusalem for not paying attention to God's arrival, which I guess is completely fair in a sense, because the truth is that Israel wasn't paying attention when God showed up. And if the song were to leave it at that, I guess, I would say, maybe it would be unfair. But then you get to the third verse when they call out the U.S. for essentially doing the same thing. Now, you may be saying, oh, the U.S. wasn't around back when Jesus was born. No, but the U.S. isn't paying attention to him now, are we? And the more we don't pay attention to him now, the more we don't pay attention when the signs begin to escalate for his second coming. Now, let me real quick before I get on any further with this. There's a really nice burn in the third verse. I think it's a slap in the face to some of these people with their idiotic views. Start off the third verse. United States of America looks like another silent night as we're sung to sleep by philosophies that save the trees and kill the children. How true is that? I don't have time to get off on how sickening it is that we worry more about the stupid things that don't matter, and yet we kill off all of these babies who just were never given the chance to live. It's completely ridiculous. Anyway, let me get back to what I was saying about the U.S. The tone of the song, like in terms of the lyrics, it suggests a position of eschatology that I don't necessarily agree with. I won't get into it about it here. Even though that being said, it still remains true, though, that people aren't paying attention to how the world, how creation is shifting towards the return of King Jesus. And the message, if you take the eschatology view out of it, the message, I think, still remains enough intact to drive its point, and that is to not be, I would say the church needs, especially. The song would not imply that, because the song implies that the church is going to be carried away, and that's going to be the sign that people were sleeping. I think really it goes back to the church has the responsibility of making sure that people of trying to help people not be asleep to the truth anymore. Ultimately, the responsibility of anybody following God is going to be on them, but if the church isn't doing its part, then we're not helping anything, putting it lightly. Father, Spirit, Jesus. This is a decent paced rock. It's a praise song that expounds on God's worthiness. It's a pretty good song musically. It's a really good praise song. So go ahead and check that out. I really don't have much to say about most of the rest of these songs, actually. In Me, track 9, to me, it kind of sounds like a processional that features snare drums, and it's in 6/8. The song basically talks about how we need Christ, and through Him, we have power to overcome, and etc. Again, there's not much to say about it. I mean, it's a good song, but I don't really go back to it. I'm not putting it down or anything. It's just not one that I normally go back to. Prodigal is, I would say this one's mellow, but not quite an acoustic sound. And the story, as you can guess, is about the prodigal son. Now, it's different from Sidewalk Prophets, because in this prodigal, there's, it's actually kind of telling the story of the prodigal son as opposed to comparing people to the prodigal son like Sidewalk Prophets did. And then finally, the last track, And Now My Lifesong Sings. This one, I would say, is an intimate song, but yet it's pretty steady as well. It almost sounds like it was recorded in a different place. Like, all the songs were recorded in a studio, but then you get to this last one, and it almost sounds like it could have been recorded in a very acoustic heavy church, or maybe even a cathedral or something. Maybe not so much a cathedral, it's not that acoustic heavy, but a place that would have enough echo that it would, and almost even sounds like a stage mic too, as opposed to a studio mic. It steals the bridge from its predecessor of Lifesong, and steals a little bit of the lyrics from Amazing Grace, to tell how he, the singer, is a different person. And it's good. Again, it's not a song I go back to, but I want to say it got played on the radio once before, but don't quote me on that. But it's definitely the most, I guess, the most intimate of the tracks. So if you're into the album, I mean, so if you're more into the intimate songs, then I obviously would recommend this one. But anyway, I gotta try to wrap this up. So overall, Casting Crowns backs up their debut album with a very solid album, in my opinion. It retains beautiful violin accompanied contemporary sound that Casting Crowns established for itself, and the challenging lyrics that they're known for. It's got it all back, and the song order is fine with me. I personally would have switched Set Me Free and While You Were Sleeping, but that's me personally. And added with this one are some testimonies and stories, and I like that because that's a really good step for variety. That having been said, I'm gonna give this one a 4.3 out of 5, which is the same rating that I gave the first album. The reason why is it doesn't have, at least to me anyway, quite as many memorable songs. You'll notice when I put all my drum covers up, I'll have more drum covers of the first album than I will on the second one, and that's just because to me those songs are a little bit more memorable. But that having been said, though, it still has solid music, and even in some degree a little bit better music for certain songs, and it has that really from start to finish. The first album didn't have as much variety in its lyrics or its sound, which is not necessarily a bad thing for a first album because it's important to establish your sound. But this one starts to add that variety, which is good for a second album. And the only thing that really drags the score down is the fact that, to me, there's not as many memorable songs as the first album. That's the only reason why I gave it the score that I did. But otherwise, it's still a very good album, completely worth checking out. I recommend that you do. And I'll be getting the drum covers that I have for this one up on YouTube as soon as possible. My favorites on this album were Lifesong, Praise You in This Storm, Does Anybody Hear Her, and Stained Glass Masquerade. And of course, I would recommend Set Me Free. Overall, I guess it's worth a listen to, even though the chorus, like I said, bothers me, but it is worth a listen to. In the meantime, though, guys, that's going to do it for this review. Please check out my previous stuff on YouTube and on the website. I hope to have the rest of those drum covers up soon, like I said, and hope to have the next music review out. I got it written already. Just need to record it. Hope to have that out before too long. In the meantime, though, until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and please, as always, take care.